To get to buttonholes, we're here in Utility Stitches. Just page ahead until you get to buttonholes. It's going to tell you what foot to use. That's this one right here. The standard square end buttonhole is the first one. I'm going to just keep it right there, but as you can see, we can also do keyhole buttonholes, round end buttonholes, and if we go forward here, we can do other kinds of buttonholes. I'm going to go back to where we were before. This is the one we want. The buttonhole foot looks like this. Now it has this stabilizer plate. What that's good for is if you have a lot of layers, like you're doing a coat, and you want to keep those layers together when you're doing your buttonhole. For most things like shirts and dresses and things, you don't need that. Now we move this piece up like this. We take our button and we put it right down there and scoot it right down. This distance here is going to determine the length of our buttonhole. I'm going to switch out our feet. Put that right on like that. Now, before I even choose a buttonhole, I want to make sure that this thread is through the hole right here. There's no slit on the side anywhere, so I'm going to just take a needle down, needle up, pull my fabric out of there, and that has put the thread right where it needs to be. We have a buttonhole lever. We pull down like this. Now, if you have shirt weight fabric like this, you want to make sure and have interfacing between the two layers, or on the front placket of a shirt, you can actually fold it twice like this. Just make sure that you cut extra fabric so you can do that. I've seen nice men's dress shirts where they have used a fold of the fabric to be that extra layer of stabilizer. And that's what I'm going to do on this one. Next, we want to do our buttonhole marking. And here I've got this center long line. That's what's going to be right in the center of the buttonhole, and then the beginning mark right here. Then I want you to also notice something about the foot. The foot has these marks on it, but I also notice that it's very helpful if you look at this little indentation right here in the middle. Those two grooves are where the two halves of the buttonhole are going to form, but right in the middle, that's what we're going to line this mark up with. And you can also press your foot a little higher if you need to. Go down like that, lift this up just to make sure it's right in the center like that. Now, we also have these marks here. That's where our stitching is going to start, so I like to line it up that way. I'm going to make sure, yep, sure enough. Now, where the needle goes down, it's going to go down on one side of that longitudinal mark because that's where the first line of stitches is going to form, is on that side. And we want to leave a little bit of space between the two lines of stitches. So we can get started. I like to disconnect my foot control like that because the buttonhole has an automatic stop at the end, so we can just press our start stop button and get going. Okay, now all we need to do is snip our thread at the top, and then on the back, the beginning thread, I like to snip that right down at the fabric, and then I'm going to make these a little bit shorter, but not right next to the knot because I don't want the knot coming undone, but as you can see from the back, it looks just fine. Now we open our buttonhole. I like to make sure that I don't accidentally cut through that end bar tack here. So I'm going to start down at this end here and just slice it right up like that and flip it over and just make sure that I've cut it all the way to the end. There you go, like that. I also like to maybe clean up these extra little threads here, these loops of thread, just to make it look nicer, to keep the button from catching on those loops. Now we take our button out and make sure that it can fit through the buttonhole. Now this, I notice, is a little bit loose on the buttonhole. Because of that, that button might come unbuttoned by itself. We don't want that happening. So we have this extra little adjustment here, longer or shorter. So if I move this so that this line is down more towards the S. I'm going to put it halfway between the middle line and the S line there. That actually moves this part here closer to this part here. And it makes it so that now the buttonhole is going to be a little bit shorter. So let's try this again. Put the button back in. Now we also want to make sure that this edge here, this long edge, is parallel with the edge of the foot. Because you can have it lined up just right, but if it's a little bit off like this, you can see your buttonhole is going to end up being sewn crooked. So we want to make sure that that edge is parallel. That's something to watch for when you're lining up your marks. Here we go. All right, so let's give it a go. Cut the buttonhole, same way. In fact, I kind of like to just cut it towards the center and then turn it over, replace my pin, and cut it from the other. Now, I haven't cleaned up the threads very much because I'm still just trying out the button to make sure it'll fit. This is why it's always important to do it on a scrap of fabric first before you do it on your garment. And then also, if I had other buttons, I wouldn't have to keep taking this button out of the foot. I could just use my other buttons. That fits so much better. I'm going to trim off these extra little bits of thread like that. There we go. Now, apples to apples. Let's test these two. Okay, so this was my first buttonhole. The button just slides in way too easily. The second buttonhole, which is slightly shorter, it's just right. It's just snug enough that it allows the button to come through but not come unbuttoned by itself. That's what this little adjustment here is for. It's really useful. And that was buttonholes. If you've enjoyed this video, give us a like. And if you have comments, questions, or ideas for other videos you'd like to see, let us know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. Bye.